Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy
Mega Meeple!
Greetings and welcome to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. This is episode 69. And hey, get your mind out of the gutter. Come on. It's a family-friendly show here. Okay? Yeah. It's like, my, what a interesting week we have had in the nation. But hey, that is why we just love board games, because it's a chance for us to just get the hell away from all the crap going on and have some fun. Escape, It's a pain in the butt to, go out to the movies and stuff like that. Hey, when you have Netflix, you just wait for it to come on Netflix or video on demand or something like that. But it's real easy to just pull out a game, get a few people together, and just escape. Get away from all the crap going on. But that we definitely needed to have that going on this past week. But hey, for those of you that have just joined us, if this is your first time listening, welcome. Everybody is welcome at the Mega Meeple gaming table. Unless you're a jerk, then we're just gonna have to have a little talk with you if you want to come back. You know what I'm saying? But if you're cool, hey, yeah, you're welcome. There's always an empty chair here. Pull up a chair, grab a Mountain Dew. We got some pizza on coming. And make yourself at home. If you haven't checked it out yet, I do have a website. It's www.themegameeple.com. That's all one word, themegameeple.com. And all of our podcast episodes stream there, so you could go all the way back to the other 68 episodes and check those episodes out. All the links are there, and if you want to follow us on all the other social media stuff that we do, go to the social media page. All the links are there, as well as our Pod Pledge and Patreon pages. So if you really like the podcast and the show and what I do here, if you want to fork over, $1 or so a month or whatever, hey, that every dollar counts, And if people don't think that a dollar doesn't count, that's just too small of an amount. Yeah, you ever try to get something from the vending machine and you're like a nickel short? It doesn't matter if you have most of the money, but if you're a nickel short, guess what? You don't get that candy bar, or you don't get that coffee or that soda, because that vending machine is But luckily, I'm far more gracious than the vending machine. So, but yeah, you're never gonna have to pay to get the podcast. I mean, as long as I'm alive, and as long as I feel like doing this, basically, the podcast is going to be here. I mean, episode 69? You think I'm going to quit now? You wish. But yeah, anyway, if you want to donate $1 or so a month, that goes a long way, because I do pay hosting costs and with Libsyn and all that other crap and logistics. But and if you're not able to do $1 a month, or that's cool. You could help the podcast and the show and the videos and stuff like that, and it won't cost you a thing. And that's just by spreading the word. Tell your friends about it. Next time you go to your local friendly game store, or if you have friends over and you play, just hey, have you heard this podcast called the Mega Meeple? Yeah, this dude is crazy. Have you seen his videos on the Dice Tower? He's funny looking. And, sometimes he does these videos, and I swear to God, I think he's off his meds. He's really funny. Check him out. Yeah, just word of mouth, it goes a long way to widen the audience, so to speak. Expand my influence in my goal of world domination. No, never mind. I have no idea what the hell I was doing there. So, all right, I've gone away for a little bit, but now I'm back. But yeah, if you're that helps. That helps a lot too. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, yeah. If you're an Apple person, go. I'm on iTunes, so go to iTunes and subscribe. While you're there, put out some of that 5-star living and leave me a happy review. Stroke my ego. It really helps. No, but that really helps with the whole Apple. I mean, they talk about YouTube algorithms. Apple iTunes is just as bad. Oh God, God knows what it takes to get on the news and the new and noteworthy type of stuff. I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but hey, it's going to be a fun ride trying to get there. So I before we get to this episode's guest, I got to tell you about me and my roommate and his girlfriend went over to a friend's house, and we got to play Tiny Epic Zombies. I swear that game is fast approaching my favorite Tiny Epic game. Right now, Tiny Epic Galaxies is still my favorite of the whole lineup, but Zombies it's quickly approaching number one. And then our friend showed us this other game. It's from the same people that did You Don't Know Jack. I think it's currently on Steam. At least I think that's at least the way we played it. But basically, you log in. It's called the Jackbox Party Pack. And one of the games in there is Fibbage, Fibbage. And we played that, and it was pretty neat. It was. You basically log on. When you start the game, it gives you a code on the TV screen, and you get on your phone. And as long as you're on the same network as that the TV is on, you could log on to that. And so you enter the code in, and your name shows up on the TV screen. And what the thing does, there's different versions of the game as far as different scenarios and different topics and stuff like that. Depending on what particular game that you're playing or what particular version of the game you're playing, it basically beams messages and questions and stuff to your phone. And then there's one where you're doing like a dating games between monsters. So you log in anonymously, so you're able to chat with the other monsters, i.e., the other people in the room, on their phones, and you don't know who you're chatting with, and then unless somebody says, hey, I'm like one of us actually kind of spilled the beans and spoiled that that they were this particular monster. So, but in spite of that, you basically play this game on the TV screen, and it's interlinked with your smartphones, and the thing keeps score, and it was just a really neat thing. It kind of reminded me of when you go to these sports bars and they have all these TVs surrounding the place. The ones that are not playing, football or boxing or here in the Carolinas, NASCAR. You have these bar games that you could get the different tables, get these little controllers that basically interact with the game that's going on these TV screens in the bar. So that kind of put me in the mind of that. I don't know. It's been a few years since I've been to a sports bar, so I don't even know if they even still do that. But back in the day, I remember doing that. And this fibbage game kind of put me in the mind. But yeah, it's a pretty neat thing. But so if you have Steam, check out Jackbox Party Pack. And I think they have different 4 or 5 of them. So check that out. It's a pretty neat social party game. So anyway, let's we have a pretty beefy interview because we cover a whole bunch of stuff in this episode's guest. So without any further ado, let's go to the interview with another Grogan. Yeah, this is the episode of Grogans, because my guest this episode is none other than the game rulebook guru, Paul Grogan, with me this episode. So yeah, we talked about, well, what else are we going to talk about? Rule books. What makes a good rule book? What makes a sucky rule book? Playtesting. How to playtest, and a whole lot more. So let's go right to the interview right now, shall we? All right, welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and big surprise to me when I first started, after I got into board games and started thinking, oh, well, maybe I gotta, I'm retired, I got a lot of time on my hands, gotta keep myself busy, I'll put a podcast out there, and I started looking around for some names, make sure I'm not taking anybody's names of podcasts. And lo and behold, I find another person in the board gaming community that has the same name as, well, not the same last name, but I have no idea whether we're related or not. I don't know. He's British, I'm Irish, so figure that one out. But I have the grand privilege and honor to have none other than Gaming Rules, Paul Grogan. Paul, how you doing, guy?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me on the show. We probably are related. I just don't know how far back, because Grogan is an Irish name, is what I've been told. I've not bothered tracing back my ancestors beyond my grandparents, and neither of them were Irish. But I'm sure if you go far and far back, then there will be some Irish roots in there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, a few. I don't know. Few number of generations back, so yeah. But as I say, a lot. Actually, if you really think about it, we're all kind of related in some way.
Yeah, if you go far back.
Yeah. So just for those of people that are been living under a rock or just now coming into board gaming, and just tell us a little about yourself and how you got into gaming, and how did the board gaming bug bite you?
I've been board gaming most of my adult life. In fact, before adult life. So when I grew up, when I was 8, 9, 10, whatever, I was into fantasy and sci-fi. I was a geek. If the term geek existed back then, it probably didn't. But if it did, I was one. And then in the early 80s, I got the fighting fantasy novels, because that's fantasy, which I loved. And it was kind of like a game. And I remember playing games as a kid, obviously not the kind of games that we have now, but I remember always enjoying playing games. And I'm an only child, and I would spend many a time going through, Mousetrap or Spy Ring or all of these really, really old games, kind of on my own, just setting them up and playing through them. So I've always enjoyed playing games. And then many, many years later, through one thing or another, my gaming hobby has continued. I've done role-playing games for 25 years. I've done collectible card games. I've done miniature war games. Now, since about the year 2000, I am 95% into board games. I'll dabble with the occasional card game now and again. But yeah, it's pretty much board games for me. That's as a hobby.
That's cool. I've from the people I've known, and at least the people in my these local gaming circles here, it does. There are like specific niches. There's sort of like the board game geeks, and then there's the exclusively miniature geeks, and then the war game geeks.
Yep.
But the cool thing is you can all kind of you go to any gaming event or open gaming event at a game store, at least ones that has the room for it, and you'll see the okay, this section is set up for this, and this other section is set up for that, and it's I look at it sometimes, and it's almost like a high school dance, where all the one players are on one side of the room and all the other players are on the other side of the room. So it's kind of weird. It's like, but but we're all gaming, so
yeah. I mean, even within board gaming now, you have. Oh no, we don't mingle with them. They play Euro games. They push cubes around on a board. Or the other side of the room. Oh no, we just play, light filler games for 10 minutes. Within the board gaming hobby, you have such, different styles and genres within that of what people enjoy. But as you say, at the end of the day, we're all gaming, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. So now you have gaming rules and.
Mm-hmm.
Now I gotta ask you, how did you come? Was this a thing where you just saw something like, okay, this is something that is a void. It needs to be filled. Nobody else is doing it, so I may as well do it. Or was it something that you really enjoyed doing? As like, hey, I'll do rulebook gaming.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, I was in. So this is going back probably 4 years now, maybe a little longer. No, probably about 4 years. Things with my career was not working out. There was a number of issues with my job in the place that I worked, and I was planning. I wasn't enjoying it, and I needed to do something else with my time. Now, I have always enjoyed teaching people how to play games. I have been doing it since I was 12 or 13, and I've been doing it for 33. How old am I? 35 years now. And I would say
on my birthday, I usually have to get a calculator out because I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't figure that out anymore.
I've lost count. But I've been teaching people how to play games for a long time. And not a week goes by where I'm not teaching somebody how to play a game. And quite often when I go to these gaming conventions, I will spend my entire time just teaching people how to play games. I love doing it. It's a passion of mine. I just enjoy doing that. And as I say, when things with my job wasn't working out, I thought, I know what I can do. And I came up with the idea of I would teach people how to play games using videos. And the first video that I did as an experiment is still on my YouTube channel now. It's pretty awful if I look back at it. It's very amateur, very unprofessional, but I don't have any background in filming, lighting, audio, nothing. Absolutely no background in any of that whatsoever. It was just something that I decided I wanted to do. And then a couple of people said to me, "Oh, yeah, have you heard of Rodney Smith and Watch It Played?" And I'm like, no, I haven't. I'll go and have a look at that. And I had a look at it and went, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So to the outsider, they'll probably think, oh yeah, 4 years ago, Paul Grogan decided to copy Rodney and basically do what he does. No. I came up with this idea myself. It just so happens Rodney had the same idea, but he had it a few years earlier than me. But yeah, that's how Gaming Rules started out, is that I wanted to create videos on how to play games, teaching people via video is how it all started. But of course, things ballooned from there, and then I ended up leaving my job 3.5 years ago now, I think, and I'm now doing this full time. And when I say full time, it's average of 60, 70 hours a week, and I've not had a holiday in 3 years. So yeah, it's definitely full time. But I don't just do the videos now. I actually do rulebook editing and writing. I do game development. I've been doing game development for a while, but now I do a lot more of it than I used to. And I also do my own podcast. I do my own reviews. I do my own monthly video logs where I talk about all the games that I've been playing. So I do a whole host of stuff, not just the rules videos now.
Now I'm just now started getting into particularly like reviewing stuff. I know I had just recently one designer and one publisher send me a game requesting a review for both the website and the YouTube channel, and so I'd be interested in seeing what how you approach is like compared to just playing a game just for fun. Do you approach it with a different focus or mindset versus, okay, I'm going to play this game to review it, or I'm going to play this game to create a rules video for it?
I mean, the rules videos is something completely separate. The way that I do my rules videos, for people who are listening to this who don't know, they are completely planned out, completely scripted. It's days and days of work before I even turn on the video camera. So I get the game, I learn how to play the game. If there are any questions that I have with the rules, especially when I'm doing a rules video for a game that's not out yet and the rulebook is just in draft, for example, I may have lots of questions. Then I like to get the game, play it a couple of times myself, and practice teaching it to other people, because the process of doing that will enable me to find out which the tricky bits of the game are. Which bits do I need to focus on in the video and say, look, this is going to catch you out, so pay attention to this bit. So the rules videos I do, they are professionally created. They are commissioned pieces of work. So I try to do the best job that I can on them. My reviews, on the other hand, are just they're done through my Patreon campaign. So my Patreon campaign gives me the extra funds to allow me to basically take time off my work in order to be able to do them. And I have to say that some of my review videos have been done for games that I have just played over the years. It's not that I say, right, I'm going to do a review of this game. I am now going to play it 3 or 4 times and then be able to do a review. I just recently did a review of Luna. Now, I've not played Luna for probably 2 years, but I've played it about 10 times. So I read through the rules again. Everything that I liked and disliked about the game came right back to me, and then I did the review video. However, uploading right now, as we speak, is my Lords of Hellas review. And I didn't feel comfortable doing a review of that without just playing it once again recently. So last weekend, I was at a convention and I said to a few people, look, I really want to get one more play of this in before I do a review. So we sat down and we played it. Now, so your original question was, did I play that game with my head on of, I am going to do a review of this next week, therefore I need to pay more attention to what's going on? And the answer is no. I just played it as I would normally play it, because I never just sort of play games. I mean, we all play games for fun, but I don't just play games and only half pay attention. So I'm kind of always looking out and looking at things that I like and things that I don't like anyway, whether I'm playing a game for a review or I'm just playing the game.
Okay. All right. Well, that definitely answers my questions. That's cool. Now we gotta get into rule books.
So, we do. We've been skirting around the issue.
we gotta shoot this elephant here in the room. And now, good rule books and bad rule books.
Yep.
What Well, I want to end on a happy note. So we'll talk about what makes a good rule book last. So let's rip the Band-Aid off and talk about bad rule books. What are some examples? Now, I mean, I've called out on my podcast. I've called out some bad.
Oh yeah, I watched the video. Yeah, you did a video on it, and it was interesting because I watched the video, and I think it was the one where you put titles at the start of the video saying brackets not Paul Grogan, which was very funny, and yeah, and it was like word for word what I would have said myself. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that we agree on bad rule books. But to answer your question of what makes a bad rule book, I am actually going to go against what you've just said, and I am going to list what makes a good rule book. And the reason is, if I list what makes a good rule book, then a bad rule book is one that doesn't tick these boxes. It's as simple as that. And for me, a good rule book is two things. First of all, whoever buys the game and opens the game and gets all the bits out needs to be able to learn how to play that game from the rulebook and the components in front of them without needing to go online and ask any questions. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that they are able to play the game correctly without having to find out answers from other sources or without having to watch a rules video. And I know that might seem odd because I create rules videos, but I believe that my rules videos are an alternative way to learn the game, and they should not replace the rulebook. Publishers should not be slack on their rulebooks just because, oh, somebody's going to do a video, so we don't need a good rulebook. No. The rulebook needs to be a standalone product, and people need to be able to learn how to play the game from the rulebook correctly without having any questions. Right. The second criteria is that if a situation crops up during the game, they should be able to find the answer that they need quickly and easily. Now, that's important. It's not as important as the first one. The first one is the most important thing. You should be able to play the game from the rulebook without looking anything up. If also you then go, oh, wait a minute, my oxygen level has just reached 0. What happens? And then you spend 10 minutes searching the rulebook for that, then that's not good. It needs to be, things need to be easier to find. So that is more the structure of a rulebook, because you can have a good rulebook that meets the first criteria and all the rules are in there. But if the structure and the layout is awful, then it's going to be a much harder job for you to learn how to play, and then when you come to look things up afterwards, it's going to be very difficult to do. So yeah, they're my two main criteria for what makes a good rule book, and a bad rule book is simply one that doesn't meet those criteria. It is as simple as that.
Yeah. I'm with you with that. I've one thing that really opened my eyes at when I was I'm not sure how I got to do this, but I got to playtest some decks for Ashes: Rise of the Phoenix Born. And actually, their decks are now out there right now at your game store. But while we were playtesting those decks, one thing that I've got a new appreciation for is, number one, just the design of a game, and number two, how it's just even down to the words and phrases that you use on the card. It's like, all right, this word, and just keep the consistency of every time you need to that word applies to something, use that same word.
Yeah. I mean, that's card text, which is, for me, when I'm working on a rule book, I'm also usually the guy who's editing the card text as well. And I've just finished working on a project for a Polish company, Solar City, and there's lots and lots of buildings in this game, and they all have abilities. And going through all of the cards over and over again to make sure that we've used the same terminology in each one, and the same, we've structured the sentences the same way, that is also, in my opinion, that's important. I mean, for example, if one card says gain 1 if you have a banana, right? And then another card says if you have an apple, gain 3. Now, they're both clear, so you're going to be able to play the game properly, but the structure of those sentences is wrong. Both of them should follow the same structure. It should be gain X if you have X. And that should apply to all cards. Again, that's just one of those things that is hard to do when you're looking at 50, 60 cards and you're working on a small team of people. Because my skill is actually in the fairly high level editing of rulebooks. I'm not that good a proofreader. I have a number of people who work with me who are much better proofreaders than me. But my skill comes in taking the rulebook and step by step organising it and structuring it so that it's in the right order, and hopefully people won't have any questions afterwards. But yeah, what you're talking about is terminology of text on game components, and that is important as well, especially if it's incomplete. There's one game, I won't mention it, but it's a shame because I worked on the rulebook for the game, and I thought the rulebook was actually okay, and you would be able to play the game from the rulebook without a problem. However, each of the players has a certain number of cards which have abilities printed on them, and those abilities were they were written very, very shorthand. So when we actually got the game and we started playing it, and I looked at my cards and I read the abilities, I did not know what those abilities did. I'm like, I don't understand this. I actually don't understand what this does. And unfortunately, that was one project where I wasn't involved in the whole thing. If I'd have been involved in the rulebook and the cards together and been able to playtest it, and we'll come on to playtesting in a minute, that would have come out in one play. That would have come out. I would have said, hang on a minute, I know the rules of the game, but I've got this card and it tells me to do X and I have no idea what X is. So that card text is very, very important, but sometimes it is treated as a separate job to the rulebook, and a separate group of people will be given that job to do, which I think is wrong. I think the same people should be involved in the whole process.
Yes, definitely, and also I want to go back to what you were talking about of going online, reading, asking questions, stuff like that. I mean, I know I've seen on Board Game Geek where it's like, okay, there's a certain situation. What would I do on here? Now, and I guess this goes back to the completeness and phrasing of the rules and how you describe things is, and you touched on it, but it's a rule book really can't go through and describe what you do in every single conceivable scenario that you may or may not encounter during the gameplay. But if the rule book has just the fundamentals and enough to be able to, okay, we've come across this scenario. What do we do? Well, let's go to the rule book, and just by reasoning and logic. Okay, well, if the rule book says this, then it stands to reason that this is how this scenario would dictate what we do. Yep.
But it depends. I mean, if that scenario that you're describing, if that's something that's going to happen in like every game, for example, then if we go back to, we haven't talked about it yet, but if we take Vlaja Shavatul as an example. Now, Vlaja, working with a guy called Jason Holt, they write their rule books together. So Vlaja is one of those game designers who actually writes his own rule books. And if you look in the back of most of his rule books, there will be a series of frequently asked questions. Now, this is one interesting topic because some people think that a rule book should not have frequently asked questions in the back of it. And I disagree. I think I think it's a good thing. I think have the rules clear, definitely. But what Vlad done is Vlad been playing this game for 18 months. He has watched people playing the game over and over again for 18 months. All of these scenarios, all of these situations have already happened. And he knows that people are going to ask questions. Oh, what happens if... can I play 2 of these cards? They both give me a discount of 1. Does that mean I can play 2 of them and get a discount of 2? Somebody will have asked that question during playtesting. Vlad makes a note about all of these questions and then puts them into the FAQ in the back of the rulebook. So if you look at the back of many of his rulebooks, and also the Alchemist's rulebook, which wasn't Vlad, but was another guy who works for CG, but he'd learned from Vlad, there's loads of questions in the back of what if this and how does this card work with that? And that is something to aspire to. That is really good. And a number of the games that I work on rulebooks on don't have that. And many of the rulebooks that I write, I've never actually played the game. So it's not possible for me to do this. But I do tell them, I say, look, consider having an FAQ at the back of your rulebook, or some kind of web link to some kind of online FAQ like Spirit Island does, for example. It has a link in there and say, look, there's loads and loads of cards. There's going to be lots and lots of combinations. Here's the place to find out all of the, live up-to-date information about how a certain card works with a certain card. That's absolutely fine to have that when we're talking about cards interacting with one another. Because, as you say, you're not going to be able to cover everything, but you should be able to cover the most common ones, which would have cropped up in your playtesting.
Right. And I think, too, that certainly gives testimony to how well they know their game and how much playtesting they did.
Oh, yeah, if you get a situation and you ask online and the designer says, I don't know, I've never seen that. You think, well, how many times did you play the game? So, yeah. So we touched on playtesting. And there's a number of different meanings for the word playtesting. And then there's also a subcategory of playtesting called blind playtesting. And unfortunately, there's 2 or 3 different meanings for blind playtesting as well. So whenever you use the word playtest or blind playtest, you can't just use that. You have to actually explain what it actually means. And for me, blind playtesting a rulebook is where I give the game, which is normally a prototype copy of the game, I give it to some of my friends, I give them the rulebook, and then I sit there and I watch and I wait and I see if they are able to play the game correctly from the rulebook. And it is a very, very good test. I normally insist on doing it. If I'm not able to get a prototype copy of the game, then I'm not able to do it. But I never feel comfortable with the rulebook until I have sat there and watched people learn how to play the game from the rulebook. So for me, that is part of my process. And if I don't get the ability to do that, either the time, the budget, or not having a prototype, then yeah, I don't feel as comfortable with that rulebook when it goes to print.
I didn't realize there was like certain different meanings or iterations of. I thought it was like, okay, playtest is playtesting. It's like
no. I mean, playtesting your game is where you've designed a game and you're taking it along to some friends to see how it works. That's a playtest. Then once you've played it 20, 30 times, you might take it to a games convention and you might show it to other people. That's a playtest, yeah? Everything that you do is all playtesting the game itself to make sure the game works and the game is okay. Blind playtesting, there's 2 meanings that I know of, but there's somebody else I know who has a completely different meaning to it. So there's one form of blind playtesting where you give your game to a group of people, ask them to play it, and then feed back to you how well they liked the game. I think the only difference is you're not there when they're doing it. And therefore, the feedback that you're getting is completely, utterly unbiased. or it should be unbiased. You're giving it to a group of people. They're playing it without any involvement or interference from yourself, and then they're feeding back. I personally would never do that kind of blind playtesting with my game. Because what if they played a rule wrong? How many people play games incorrectly? Me, hands up. I do all the time. You miss a key rule in the rule book, and suddenly all of that playtest that they've just done for you and all of their feedback is completely useless. If they played a fundamental rule of the game wrong, then the feedback is useless. So blind playtesting, getting people to play your game without you being there is dangerous, and I would never recommend that. For a start, you might get feedback from them and you might not know that they played the game wrong. So they feed back to you and they say, oh, money's really tight in the game. Nobody enjoyed the game because we all felt money was just too tight. Okay, and you take that as feedback for your game. What you don't realise is they forgot to take their income at the start of each round, for example. So of course money's going to be tight, but you don't know that. So blind playtesting like that, I wouldn't recommend. We're going on to game development here. Blind playtesting where you give people your game and the rulebook and you sit there and watch them, absolutely 100% recommend. I generally would say it's essential, but many publishers don't do it. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's something new to me. So yeah, it just
there we go.
My day is fulfilled. I could go back to bed. I learned something new.
I have taught somebody something. I am happy. But your rant that you did about rule books, you tried to play that game from the rule book, and you weren't able to. Therefore, and you're not a stupid person, right? So, therefore, anybody who buys that game is going to have a problem with the rulebook. So it clearly wasn't blind play tested. I mean, I'm generalizing here, but there are games which I get and I read the rulebook, and some of them I have had to contact the designer on, Messenger or Skype or something like that and say, we're trying to play your game. We have no idea at all what this means, and we can't find it anywhere in the rulebook. And then they tell me, and I'm like, brilliant. Is that in the rulebook and we missed it? And they go, no, we forgot to put that in there. Brilliant. So that game was unplayable. And I'm tired of playing games like that. I play medium to heavy Euro games. I believe that games should be hard to play. They should be a challenge. It shouldn't be easy to win. It shouldn't be easy to do well. But games should not be hard to learn. People should, I believe it's a responsibility of the publisher to provide you as a purchaser of the goods, as a consumer, the means to be able to play that game easily without, as I say, without reading 50 pages of FAQ or watching people's videos or anything like that. Many of them don't. And it's a shame. And what's a shame for me, and this is not me angling for more work, because I really don't need any more work, but there are many people out there who do rulebook editing, and they're not that expensive. We're cheap. And even if you just send the game to them and say, look, just have a look through this rulebook, just read through it once, and tell me, do you think you're able to play the game after you've read through it once? That is going to cost them, I don't know what, $100, $150 or something like that. I'm sure they can afford that. I'm sure they could. But there's another factor to take into account as well, which is timing. So often, publishers will not plan things properly. They'll wait till the last minute. And this has happened to me, and it's happened to every other editor I know, where on a Friday, they get a message pop up and they say, I was wondering if you could have a quick look at this rulebook. It's going to print on Monday, and we're sending it you on Friday. And you're like, what? Why are you sending it me on Friday? Well, we had to wait for the translator to translate it into this, and then this, that, and the other, and then this, basically lack of planning. But it happens so often. The board game hobby and the industry is is a small hobby, and a lot of the people that work in it are just people like you and I. Me and you could decide we're going to start our own games publishing company, right? I don't know about you, but I have zero skill in that area, and it would be a complete disaster. But many people have gone out there and started their own publishing companies, and all of this business planning processes and everything else, that's not there. That doesn't exist. So you get these short notice requests, and then if you're an idiot like I am, you say, yeah, sure, I'll cancel my weekend and I'll spend the entire weekend working on your rulebook. Thank you very much.
So what's that saying? A lack of planning on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on mine.
An emergency on mine. Exactly. But that's the way it is. So it's sometimes it isn't just a case of the money. Sometimes it's a case of the timings are such that it's just got to go to print and there isn't any time. But again, that's a problem that can be avoided. You plan properly and you go, right, the rulebook's going to print on this day. Therefore, we need to start final proofing a week before. Therefore, we need to be doing the editing 2 or 3 weeks before. And what surprises me sometimes is, when a publisher or designer contacts me and says, right, the game's going to print in a month. We need to start working on the rulebook now. And I'm like, well, you mean you don't have anything written down? No, we don't have anything written down at all. And I'm like, but you've been playtesting the game for the last 18 months and you've got nothing written down? Start writing it down when you are developing and designing the game. And I know the rules are going to keep changing all of the time during that process, but at least start with something. It's just, it's unusual. But, yeah.
Yeah, we had a situation last night from the day we're recording this. We were playing a game, and it's a fairly well written rule book, and I had some people over to learn how to play it, and it's actually one of the games that the publisher sent me to do a review.
Oh right, okay. And is it a released game? Is the game out?
It is currently I think it's out there now.
Okay.
If not, it's going to be at Gen Con.
Right.
But and some of the components was like 4 or so tiny D6s. Now, when I was going through the rule book, unless I missed something, the only time I saw a D6 mentioned was during the setup, and you just roll a D6 and it determines placement of some components on the board game gaming board. Well, you only need like 1 D6 to do that, and it's included 4 D6. And one of my friends was like, I want to know what these 4 tiny because we have not used those things throughout the entirety of this game. And it was like, when we were all done, we're packing it up. He's like, no, I'm not leaving your apartment until you find out what these 4 dice are for. And it's like, I don't know. I think it's just for setup. So, but yeah, it's like one of those things like, complete rule books, easy to find components, or not components, easy to find descriptions.
But that's interesting, your example there, because at the time you were probably tearing your hair out thinking, oh, this is a terrible rule book, it's not explained. But actually, if those dice are just used for setup, and the setup says roll the dice, and they are not used anywhere else in the game, then I don't know. Is it right that they're not mentioned? Or maybe there should be a line in setup to say, roll the dice to determine where the banana counter goes. Then place the dice back in the box. You will not need them for the rest of the game. Something like that. And again, that would have come out in a blind playtest. Because, you would have sat down. I would have been sat there with you. And you'd have been scratching your head. You'd have been searching the rulebook for the dice. And I'd have been sitting there going, what I would have done is I would have interjected at that point, and I would have said, don't worry about it, you're not going to find any reference to the dice in there. And you'd say, well, Paul, that's really confusing. If they're only used in setup, I want to be told that. And I'd make a note and I'd say, right, there you go. And that's how the blind playtesting process works, is that you get feedback from the players, even when the rulebook is absolutely 100% correct, which in that case, it sounds like it was. It's just you were looking for something that wasn't there, which is great.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul. And I almost called you Tom.
Nearly. No, you're Tom. Let's not start that getting confused. So yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. I mean, rule books are my passion. They're not only my job now. They're a passion of mine. So yeah, I love talking about them. I'm sure it bores the hell out of a lot of people when I go on long rants about rule books. But yeah, it's just because I want every rule book to be perfect, and it annoys me when they're not. But you know, that's the way it is sometimes.
Well, if people want to find out more about you or gaming rules, where can they go?
There's various places. I have a website, which is it's not been updated for a couple of months, but that's gaming-rules.com. I'm on Facebook, Gaming Rules Videos, YouTube as Gaming Rules Videos, Twitter, Gaming Rules Vids. Yeah, if you just search for Gaming Rules, the YouTube channel is probably the best place because all of my rules videos are there. All of my video logs that I do, all of my podcasts are all on YouTube as well. So, yeah, that's probably a good place to start, I would have thought.
All right. And we'll have links to those on the show notes of this episode. Well, if you have a few minutes, we'd like to go through the Mega Meeple Rapid Fire round with all of our guests. So,
sure.
You up for that?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. First, Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead?
Ooh, Game of Thrones.
All right.
I assume we're talking because obviously Walking Dead has comics, TV series, and games. Game of Thrones has books, TV series, and games. So
yeah. Kirk or Picard?
Are you aware that I'm a Trekker? I'm going to go Picard. Just because, I mean, without Kirk, we wouldn't have Star Trek. But there were so many of the original episodes that were not great. And there were so many, then again, there were so many of the Next Generation that were not great. But overall, I would have to say Picard.
All right. Yoda or Obi-Wan?
Obi-Wan. I'm afraid Yoda was spoilt for me in the more recent films where he was doing. It was just silly. So yeah, Obi-Wan.
He was doing the gymnastics and stuff.
Oh, it was just I was laughing at the screen and not in a good way. It was just like it was just silly. And you know, I've got a friend who said, "Oh, but yeah, he was a Jedi Master, and that's what he would have been." I don't care. It looks silly. So yeah.
Alrighty. Sausage or bacon?
Sausage. Not a big fan of bacon.
And phone call or text?
Text. Well, I don't really do either. I've not had a smartphone ever my entire life. I've been living with an old Nokia 6210 whatever for the last decade. And as such, it works and the battery lasts for 2 weeks. But as such, and because I'm at home all of the time, every time, I just do not use a mobile phone at all. Which means I haven't sent a text or received a text for I don't know how long. However, last week I got a smartphone. So I still don't know how to use it. But yes, because I'm at home all the time, I'm rarely using it. But now that I have a smartphone and I'm on a contract where I get so many minutes and texts, I might actually start using it again. But I'm so unaccustomed to actually calling people on a mobile phone. It's just one of those habits that I've got out of. But yes.
All right, Paul. Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor and privilege for me to talk to you. I know if I'm my age, my brain is kind of not firing in all four cylinders. So, and I struggle a lot just reading rule books, let alone trying to tell other people, okay, there's a new game. This is how you play it. But your videos it's like, all right, if you have a video of a game, it's like, yeah, I got to actually see it being done for it to start to sink into my brain. So
yeah. Different people learn in different ways, and you're obviously somebody who prefers to learn visually rather than reading a rule book, and that's fine. Just remember to, some people, I got a comment the other week. Somebody was watching one of my videos and go, "Oh, you're going way too fast. I had to keep stopping it." And I'm like, well, I don't think I go too fast, but yeah, of course you have to stop it. There's no way you can listen to all that information completely, being thrown at you all of the time. So it's totally okay, especially if you've got the game set up and I'm describing what you do in setup. Yeah, listen to a bit, stop it, do that bit, and carry on. So yeah, no, it's good. I'm glad that the videos are there, because although some people do prefer to learn from reading the rule books, some people prefer to learn from watching a video. I think the best approach is do both, and then hopefully you'll because it triggers different parts of the brain. So different and different people react to learning, depending on which part of their brain is the strongest. So if you read a rule book and then watch a video, you're hitting both parts of the brain and better chance of learning it. But one thing for you, just a question for you. When you get a new game, do you learn how to play it yourself and then you invite people round and teach them how to play?
Yeah. In a word, yes.
Okay.
I try to.
Because here's something that we do sometimes, and I've explained this to a couple of people, and they said, "Oh my God, no, that would never work." Sometimes what we do is people come round and we play a new game, and we get the rule book out and we learn it together. Now, that does mean that I'm taking more time of my friends than it would be if I'd have learned how to play it myself. But I don't have the time at the moment to sit there, read the rulebook, watch the video, read the rulebook again, set it up, go through a few turns, play it solo. I don't have the time to do that. So what's actually happened is a few times people have come round and I've said, "Look, this new game's arrived. Who wants to play it?" And they've all gone, "Yeah, we'll play it." And I'm like, "No idea how to play." And it's fine. It's all right. We'll learn how to play together. And we sit there and we learn how to play together from the rulebook. The downside of that is if that rulebook's not good and we get stuck, we're all having to then go online and ask questions, which obviously if you've learnt it yourself beforehand, that may have been prevented. But actually, it's been quite a good experience. And I've been doing this now for a couple of years. And because I like doing things with other people, for anybody who's listened to my last podcast on solo gaming, they'll know that I like sharing experiences with other people, be it going for a walk, going to the cinema, and learning how to play a game with other people there is kind of a shared experience. So that's worked for us, but obviously you need to let your friends know and say, "Look, we've got this new game. I haven't had time to learn how to play it myself. Is everybody okay with us all learning it together?" And off we go, and see how you get on.
Yeah, and case in point, the last night's game, I went through the rule book, played it a little bit on my own, but when I got it was the first time that I played with other people, so It was question and answer time, and
right.
Sometimes it was like, okay, well, all right, yeah, let me double check the rule book and see what that says. So yeah, it was like, so it's kind of half and half there. Yeah, so I'm with you there. All righty. Well, Paul, thank you so much again. It's been a privilege talking to you, and I enjoy your work. So check out Gaming Rules YouTube videos, and listen to the podcast, and check out his Patreon, because we all got to eat. Everybody has a mortgage. So. And Dice doesn't pay the mortgage. It's a good thing. It would be a good thing if you roll a 6. It's like, okay, yeah, I could pay for this. Anyway.
Yeah, my dice don't roll 6s, so. So no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me on and allowing me to, talk about things that I like talking about.
Thank you so much, Paul. Take care.
Cheers, Tom.
Thank you so much for smashing that download button. and listening to the episode. We really appreciate it. And you want to come back next week as my guest is Andrew Bosley. And you're probably thinking, who the hell is Andrew Bosley? Never heard of him. Well, chances are you have his game. Or at least you have a game that he did some artwork for, because he is the artist for Everdale by Starling Games. So we're going to talk with Andrew next week. Again, go visit me on the website, www.themegameeple.com. Check out our other podcast episodes. Follow us and like us and follow, comment and interact with me on any of my social media stuff. The links are there on the website. Go over and check out the YouTube channel. October is here, so get ready. I'm going to be doing a top 10 of my favorite horror-themed board games to play on Halloween. And I'm going to give some recommendations of some horror movies that you could pair with each of those games. So that's going to be coming out later this month. So make sure to go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Hit that little belly thing. Or however the hell YouTube has their settings set up. They change it every other month, for crying out loud. But yeah, you'll know what to do when you get there. And again, if you enjoy the show, enjoy the videos, you enjoy what I do here, spread the word. Tell people about me. It really helps. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you will join me next week. And until then, I'll see you at the gaming table.